Hey guys, it's Paul.
Hey, it's Amanda.
And you're listening to the Secret Podcast of Laura Palmer, Episode 3, and today we will be covering Dune.
Yeah, Frank Herbert's Dune.
Yeah, 1965 novel, 1984 movie. The tagline is, "A place beyond your dreams."
I can attest to that.
Which sounds very Lynchian to me.
But who's the dreamer?
But who is the dreamer?
Who is the dreamer?
Yeah.
And we have a very special guest.
We do have a special guest with us today.
Introduce yourself?
Yes, this is Black Velvet.
Can you say that a little bit louder?
Sorry, this is Black Velvet here
Nice.
to weigh in as a Dune expert, although I'm really not at all, but as of our friend groups I am. Basement dweller is the term.
Basement dweller.
Basement dweller. Alright, so we got Black Velvet with us today. He knows more about Dune than probably both of us combined.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty amazing. I think he's seen all the books. He's seen all the books. He's read all the books.
Have you seen all the books?
Have you seen them? Have you seen them anywhere?
Alright. He shook his head yes. Can you state that for the court record?
I've read all of them except for his son's books. His son writes some of the later books, and the quality was not there. So
That doesn't count if it's not the original guy, I think.
But his son was able to cash in pretty well. So, and I mean, they're not horrible. I think I think I'm being just overly picky here as a basement dweller.
That's okay. It's okay to be picky.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with art. Vandalay.
Art Vandalay. Okay, so recap corner.
Recap corner.
We don't really have a whole lot this week. We're actually going to be recapping our last recap corner.
Recap
Inception. We realized that we were referring to
Henry, right?
Henry as Harry whenever we were talking about Eraserhead, but we meant to say Henry.
So, yeah. The guy from Eraserhead, his character's name is Henry, not Harry. Dun-dun.
Dun-dun. Do you have anything else?
I think
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to Dune, this movie came out in 1984, like we said. It did get one Oscar nomination for Best Sound.
Oh, cool. Best sound in general or best soundtrack? Or?
Best Sound.
Nice.
Best Sound Design.
Ah.
So, I have like a whole bunch of little factoids here.
The music is by Brian Eno and Toto.
Yeah, Brian Eno did the main theme and Toto did the score.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then one of the things that really stuck out to me in this movie was the production design. And that was Anthony Masters, who also did the production design for 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh.
So
that
that was
makes
pretty
sense.
interesting. And then also on top of that, Freddie Francis was the cinematographer. And he did The Elephant Man, The Straight Story, and he also directed the original Tales from the Crypt film in the 70s. Yeah. So that's something I did. And one of the things I noticed when I was watching Dune, I just kept thinking of the movie Return to Oz. Turns out he did the cinematography for that too.
Are you serious?
In addition to another person. But yeah, he was part of it.
Good catch.
I love that movie.
I did too. It was
Yeah,
really
that movie
trippy.
scared the
It was
crap out
fucked
of me
up.
when I was a kid.
The Wheelers.
Yeah.
That was scary.
I just remember that scene when they're like walking down the hallway with the different like heads of the the witch.
The
Like,
witches, yeah.
He's definitely there. A little backstory on Dune, if you didn't know, it was originally optioned to be a Alejandro Jodorowsky film, and he is the cult filmmaker. I personally haven't seen a lot of. The only movie I've seen by him is The Dance of Reality, which came out a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't know it.
And so anyway, like he was gonna do the Dune movie, but the project exploded into like a 10 to 14 hour epic.
What?
And they were like, we can't do this. Apparently there's a documentary about
So Jodorowsky's Dune is that was a documentary. I think we briefly spoke about it before, but it goes over the pre-production and concept art and all the creation of the world, as well as bringing in some guys that are later famous for other movies like H.R. Giger. So he was originally brought in to work on Dune.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's a great documentary on it, and I highly recommend it, but it goes over that essentially he rented a castle and just moved all these artists in, and they spent like almost the entire budget on the pre-production art. And so there's a lot of tales, and since it's Jodorowsky, you don't know if they're real or not, but of him, like his recruiting all the actors, so like Orson Welles and even got Salvador Dali to agree to appear in the film for like a second.
And apparently Gloria Swanson was going to be in it too. So
yeah, it's crazy.
How did it get shelved?
He spent all the money. Yeah, he
You know, in today's world, though,
movie.
in today's world, it might have worked because everything's so episodic now. Like with Netflix original series, if it was 10 to 14 hours and they actually like stuck to a budget, it could have actually worked maybe. But they just got a little bloated. So anyway, Dino De Laurentiis, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He was part of the original plan, and then Ridley Scott was even gonna try to make a Dune. That fell through, and then he went on to make Alien. So his daughter Rafaela ended up producing David Lynch's version of Dune, and in 1984.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of some interesting backstory there.
Roundabout sort of.
Yeah. As far as the critical reception, it was a box office flop. It got really negative reviews from pretty much every critic. And they spent $40 million on this movie.
Holy fuck.
And the movie only grossed about $30 million. So.
But it had Sting.
But it had Sting.
Yeah.
And a lot, actually.
That was like $29.9 million of the revenue.
Probably. And this movie actually had like a lot of big people in it.
Yeah.
Especially like in people who were in David Lynch's later films, like Dean Stockwell, who plays, or he does the, Ben, the candy-colored clown dance and song that happens in Blue Velvet. Yeah. So this was actually Kyle MacLachlan's first film ever.
Ever?
Yeah, David Lynch discovered him for this. Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, and it was also Alicia Witt's first film. She plays Alia. And I know Alicia Witt most from the Urban Legend horror movie.
That's right.
And then she was also in Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah, she was in there.
And she was in that really. She played. Well, she was actually in the original Twin Peaks too. She's Donna's little sister.
That plays the piano.
Exactly. Yeah. So he also discovered Alicia Witt.
There's Virginia Madsen from. I know her best from Candyman. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
She was the female protagonist in Candyman.
And then Emperor Shaddam is played by Jose Ferrer, which is Miguel Ferrer's father.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and Miguel Ferrer played Albert in Twin Peaks and like a million other television roles as well.
Same guy.
Yeah. So,
character.
Yeah. So, lots of interesting stuff happening there. There was a lot of problems with the making of this movie. David Lynch personally says he doesn't like it. He set out to make a 3-hour cut. And Universal wanted a standard 2-hour cut.
I thought you were going to say hours when he...
Oh, yeah. So Universal wanted a standard 2-hour cut. And so the movie wound up being 2 hours and 17 minutes. And you can definitely tell this movie should have been 3 hours because they gloss over so many things, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it in terms of... Do you have any other...
Not really. No.
Okay.
I just have... the music, and then I have written space.
Okay. So one thing that, I don't know, this is not my favorite David Lynch film by any means. I don't know if you've ever seen that, like, Portlandia.
I've not ever seen
You've never seen Portlandia?
No.
Have you seen Portlandia?
Yeah, it's a great show.
Okay. Do you remember the skit where the mailman's trying to get, or like Fred Armisen's basically trying to get Carrie Brownstein to watch The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari? And she just like can't bring herself to watch it.
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's like this old like German expressionist film from the silent era, and she just like refuses to watch it and like won't watch it. And that's how I feel about this movie. But I did watch this movie twice though for this podcast.
The purpose of it.
I've seen it many times before, but this is the first time I've actually like tried to pay attention to it.
That's good. Well, it looks good.
It looks great.
It looks good.
And it obviously sounded good.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's just the story leaves a lot to be desired. So
it's the editing, I think.
The editing is it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we can jump into it.
So I have space, and then there's the eye. Like there's eyes. There's a zoom in on the eyes, and it's this woman comes out, and you realize it's Virginia Madsen, and she's obviously some sort of princess. And she's talking about the time and place in which they are, which is, the year is 10,191. And she's talking about an emperor, Patache Emperor Shaddam Carino.
Emperor Shaddam.
Shaddam Carino the Fourth. And she basically sets up what's going on.
She talks about like how there are 3 or like basically 4 planets. Like 3 main planets rely on Arrakis.
And Arrakis is a planet.
Yeah, for the spice.
Spice melange.
The spice melange, and it's like this orange spice type of gas that not only like extends life and vitality, but allows for space travel without even moving. You can fold space and time with it.
So it's a hot commodity.
Yeah, like you need it, and like I think even to travel, you have to have it like in general.
In general.
Yeah, so like for spacecrafts.
In the story, at some point Terminator robots or cyborgs took over, and humans defeated them, and so you couldn't have computers. They had like literally a religious ultimatum that you can't make machines in the likeness of a human mind, as they put it, and so they have to rely on human computers. The guys with the purple lips are mentats, and they're needed, and then even to travel, you have to use a mutated human, they call them navigators, to actually like fold space and use the enhanced mental capability from the spice to be a human computer or near human computer.
They really should have prefaced the movie with that.
It makes more sense in the books because you know all this stuff and you're not wondering what this mutant floating in a tank is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right, yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
But anyway, the planet Arrakis is also known as Dune, which is where the title comes from. And supposedly there's no water on this planet. Allegedly.
Allegedly there's no water.
Allegedly.
And then there's also a group of people who live there. They're like natives to the planet. And all of the great houses are like mining there. And I think they're in search of these people to kind of figure out like how they've been able to live on this planet for so long.
The Fremen.
The Fremen.
Yeah. So they're trying to figure out like, because the Fremen are in hiding, and they're like, how are they surviving on this planet when there's no water?
Yeah, essentially.
Because you need water to live.
But they need the spice.
Yeah.
So everybody needs the spice. So.
And they're often hostile, like the groups. Like so in the book, they're more or less Bedouin Arabs.
What do you mean?
They're pretty much like Bedouin Arabs that live in the desert, and they're like tribal. So in the book, they've been abandoned there for I think like thousands of years and developed this. It was like in the book, I think they were said they were from somewhere in the Middle East, and so they set up life there is almost like a Bedouin style, like Bedouin futurism would be the way to, I guess, what you would call it.
Interesting. Yeah. So they're kind of just tribal and don't want any contact with the outside world. They're not friendly towards the other houses that are coming to mine.
Yeah. So
and the spices, the oil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's
it's like real life.
The 3 houses. There's like 2 of them are basically plotting against the third to. I mean, basically, all of them want to control the production of
the
spice, because once you're in control of it, you pretty much control the entire universe.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of like fighting for it in their own way, but only one house is good, and that's the House of Atreides.
House of Atreides.
Yes.
And this entire time, the princess is kind of walking us through this, failing to mention the whole computer thing.
Yeah.
But she kind of.
Well, and one of the things I was wondering is because the princess, as far as the movie goes, it like has nothing to do like with the plot. She just stands there. So I was like, why is she the narrator? Like, why is she giving us the voiceover? Well, the reason is because Universal wanted that 2-hour cut. So they ended up filming that after the fact and just adding in all these voiceovers that have with her doing that just to like tell the story instead of like us actually visually seeing what David Lynch
who she is and what she does and everything.
Yeah, and that as well.
So. You've done that down.
Thanks a lot, Universal.
Thank you for everything.
So anyway, we cut to after she kind of sets up the plot. We're at the Emperor's palace or whatever whatever you want to call it, and I'm already confused at this point.
Yeah,
there's a big alien head.
Yeah, this group of people like walk in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Craig from Ninja Turtles, the jar and the brain in the jar.
Oh yeah,
It just kind of gets rolled in with them, and it's in like water, some sort of liquid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the navigators is what they're called. I think we find out, right? Those are the navigators.
Okay.
And they basically tell the Emperor they're aware of his plan to basically like collude with the House Harkonnen to defeat House Atreides, which Atreides is the only good house, from what I understand.
Not in the books, but probably. I mean, it's probably implied that that's the case in the movie. If you just watch the movie, then yeah, that's the way that they're making it. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But in the book, there's a wide variety of planets, and so a lot of them like specialize in a certain thing. So there's like a machine specialist, and that's the planet of Ix, which was originally thousands of years ago like a planet 9.
Oh.
And so over time the language evolved, and they just started calling it Ix at some point. And then Talaxau is another planet, and they specialize in like cloning and like biological engineering.
Oh wow.
So that just wasn't in the movie at all.
They mention it, but they literally there's nothing followed up. If you would just be gibberish if you were watching the movie on the screen.
I see.
Okay.
I guess that makes sense. There's a lot of plot if you put all of it in there.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge, expensive, epic.
Yeah, even this movie's like already too plot heavy, and they're simplifying the book like.
I can even imagine.
So.
Yeah.
So this would have been better adapted as a miniseries, and the later they did the sci-fi
right?
miniseries. Yeah. But even now, like with streaming, like the possibilities of, I was kind of disappointed whenever they announced the new adaptation was going to be a movie. Because it would be, first of all, Hollywood is so horrible, and not taking any risk. And this movie was always about taking risks, I think.
Yeah.
Whether it was under
they do have a good cast
or
coming up in the 2020 version, though.
But I mean, I just.
But that doesn't mean anything.
I'm just saying, like, there's going to be a lot of people in it, so I mean, I don't know. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet is going to be the new Kyle MacLachlan, basically.
I don't even know who that
He
is.
was in Lady Bird and Call Me By Your Name, which are like some newer indie films that have come about.
I've heard of Lady Bird. I just never got around to watching it.
Yeah.
It's good. What's
the
the lead actress, the Irish lady that was in Brooklyn?
I can't think of her name right now. But
See
I know
what she
you're
looks
talking
like.
about.
It's I know it, but I don't know how to pronounce it. It would
Yeah.
just be sound like a bunch of consonants.
Yeah. And then like Stellan Skarsgård's gonna be in it. He played like the boss in Melancholia,
Okay.
who kept like trying to get Kirsten Dunst to give him like a tagline for his advertising.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I know. Is that Alexander Skarsgård?
Yeah. He's Stellan's in like some Lars von Trier stuff. But and then there's a bunch of people that you can IMDb it and see who's. Tilda sees something out the window.
Thanks for watching out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's gonna be tons of new people in the terrible new Dune.
Yeah, and there was also a Dune in 2000, wasn't there?
I think that's the miniseries.
That's the miniseries.
Because I remember because it came out when I was in high school and I was obsessed with it.
Okay. I do know that also in 1988 maybe they released like a television version of David Lynch's Dune, and David Lynch didn't want anything to do with it.
What?
And it was a different cut, and he put like a fake director's name, like Alan Smithy.
But it's actually him.
Yeah, but he just didn't want to be attached to it. I mean, he didn't have anything to do with that cut for television, but he directed the original, but they made a cut for television without him.
From the original.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the things we find out too is that the Duke Leto, Jared Leto, Duke Jared Leto, his son Paul, they live on Caledon, and basically like Harkonnen and the Emperor, the bad people are like plotting to kill him, and then also like even the House of Atreides doesn't want him because apparently the Duke is only supposed to have daughters.
Oh.
But he wanted to keep the son, and I guess it's a good thing he did.
Yeah. As they find out.
Yeah.
Not so much for him, as he will find out.
Right.
So I just...
Sorry, can I back up real quick?
Sure, yeah.
So the whole background of the Duke having children, he was not supposed to have a boy, I think, because they have you remember those creepy witches? The old ladies in the movie?
Yeah.
So those are called Bene Gesserit. And so they're like a mixture of, I guess, like nuns and witches.
Oh, okay.
And so they have been doing a genetic engineering and selective breeding program.
Like xenophobia, kind of?
No, they're trying to bring about a messiah who will bring them to power, because they have this utopian vision where if they become the most powerful, then the world will be a better place. So they try to selectively breed with certain people, and it's supposed to be Duke Leto's grandson, who is the Kwisatz Haderach. That's the name that they give it.
Oh, wow.
And so they're surprised that they think that he's come early.
Okay.
And so that's why they're shocked, and that they kind of that's why the witches react violently whenever they see him. But
He's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be his son.
Wouldn't they want him to come earlier? To save the world earlier?
Yeah, only if he's in their control.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And as you see, he gets out of their control.
Out of their control.
And they do explain that. They briefly kind of like gloss over that in the movie.
Yeah.
And it turns out they were right, because in the sequels, it's actually his son who is the one. So,
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, actually.
Well, that's why because they're Son or Children of Dune is like a sequel, right?
That's his rise, climb to the top.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was also a Children of Dune movie. Apparently, have you seen that one?
It was by the same. It was the same adaptation series or whatever. So I think it was the same people that did the first one for sci-fi.
Okay.
So they did Dune and Children of Dune, but they kind of, I think, combined Children of Dune with Dune Messiah.
Okay.
So it was really 2 books adapted into one.
That's
Gotcha.
pretty cool. I need to watch those.
Yeah, I think they're worth watching again. I mean, I haven't seen them in probably 10 or 11 years, so I need to rewatch them as well.
I'll be done. After, the thing in the like, tank, like, after it says it once Paul Atreides killed, I just thought, like, it pretty much gave away the entire plot of the movie there, just right there in that scene. It was just like, okay.
They're more subtle, I think, in the book. The reveal is way more subtle.
I gotcha. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, this movie's just like slapping you over the head with information.
So much,
which is like so not Lynchian because he likes to show you things instead of tell you things.
Which is, I think, why he does it.
Yeah, and this movie is just straight up trying to tell you as much as it can within the context of 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah. And then there was, after that scene, there was, like, the floor sweeping, which reminded me of fucking Twin Peaks with the floor sweeping. They swept the floor after the giant thing.
Right,
It's not a brain, it's like a...
It's a navigator. It's a mutated navigator, yeah.
It
It's like a slug.
Yeah, it looks like a slug, I guess. Yeah.
Cool.
Like Kirby. Like fucked up Kirby.
Mm-hmm. When does Patrick Stewart come in?
Patrick Stewart.
Because isn't that whenever Kamalakan's sitting there, like...
Dr. Yue? Or
No,
Gurney?
that's Gurney Halleck.
Gurney, yeah. So it goes.
So yeah, we're in a room with Paul.
We're in a different planet now. So we were on the planet with the Emperor, which was.
I don't even know the name of that
I
planet.
don't either.
Salusa Secundus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Secundus.
This is why we have Black Velvet here with us,
Black
folks.
Velvet, if you please.
Oh wait.
So yeah, now we're on Caladan, which is the House Atreides planet for House Atreides, and so they talk about mentats. Which
did Fallout get the name Mentats from this?
It had
from
to.
Dune? Because there's like that
it makes
little...
you smarter.
Yeah, it's like
so they take this
a Kim you can take in the video game. It's called Mentats. So
yeah, it makes you smarter. Get an
you
XP
can like
boost.
pick locks and stuff easier.
Perception. It adds perception.
Oh, okay.
And critical hits.
So anyway,
intelligence.
3 people come in. There's Gurney, Dr. Yui, and Thurvis.
Thurvis. I don't
The
know.
Imperial Geologist and a native Fremen.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Speaking of Patrick Stewart, I just watched Green Room recently on Netflix. It's a horror movie. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's pretty crazy. It's got Maybe from Arrested Development in
nice.
it. And
I'm done.
yeah, and Patrick Stewart plays like this neo-Nazi, and it's... I don't want to say too much without giving it away, but check it out.
Okay. I believe it.
Oh yeah, and who is it that plays? I believe Dr. Yui is played by Dean Stockwell in this movie.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And then Thurvis is played by the man from Bites from The Elephant Man, the proprietor.
Oh my god, it really is.
Yeah,
good call.
that's him, and he has some serious eyebrow game going on.
Yeah, all the mentats have like fucking caterpillars for eyebrows.
Oh, you guys left out Max von Sydow. He's the Imperial Geologist guy.
Which?
That's the guy that talks like this, the Scandinavian guy.
Yeah. He's in some stuff too, actually. He was in The Exorcist. He was the assistant priest.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one that
he wasn't the main priest, but he was kind of the other priest in The
Exorcist. He got thrown out of the
Exorcist.
window, right, or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
It's been a long
They
time
all
since
get
I've seen The
dramatic
Exorcist.
Just finish.
Can I give my opinion on who I think the most underrated star of this movie is?
Absolutely.
And a lot of other movies. Brad Dourif.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Brad Dourif. I was going to mention him, that he's in this. Brad Dourif is Chucky.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Chucky, like from
Child's Play.
From Child's Play.
Yeah.
He did a great job. And he's the Mentat, right, for...
He's the evil, he's the twisted Mentat, yeah. Peter DeVries, or Peter DeVries.
Piter.
So, he plays such amazing roles as the serial killer from the famous X-Files episode Beyond the Sea.
Oh, with the...
Where he, gets it up in Scully's mind.
With Major Briggs plays her dad.
Oh,
And
yeah.
He,
it's all connected.
It's all connected to David Lynch.
He's a sci-fi genius, and then so he's also in the horrible movie Alien Resurrection, where he's one of the only interesting characters because he falls in love with the alien, and in the climax of his bonding with it eats his head.
Aww,
Perfect.
That's adorable.
That movie is really depressing.
It's
It's,
really
a John
cute.
Luc Besson movie, but it's
really?
it's really dark.
Okay, well, while we're on the topic of Brad Dourif, he is also in Urban Legend with Alicia Witt.
What?
He is the gas station attendant in the beginning of the movie who's telling someone's in the back seat.
Yeah.
He's in that as well. He's also in Blue Velvet.
That's
He's
right.
one of Frank Booth's goons.
Goons?
Yeah.
Now that I see his face, it kind of just it pops up everywhere, like in
Yeah.
my mind of memories.
Yeah,
of
so
movies.
he's definitely in this.
Yeah. That's...
Okay, so I just wrote like a couple of notes because I was just like, I don't know the history of Dune, so I was like, things to note. The Fremens have crazy glowing blue eyes, according to what people are saying, and...
Exposure to the spice melange.
Yeah, and then the Harkonnens are the enemy as well as the Emperor. And then the Duke Jared Leto is saying to Paul McLaughlin, the sleeper must awaken. And Paul McLaughlin has this like crazy dream, and Sting shows up, who plays Fade, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you on the second moon.
Wait, this is a dream?
Yeah, he has like this whole there's like this dream montage sequence.
Oh, yeah, where he sees the girl and she's like, tell me of your home world, you soul.
Yeah, and we're like, who's that?
Yeah.
Which we find out later, but that's not. We don't even when we find out we don't. But
Yeah.
Another thing I wrote too is when we do get to like the Duke's office, they have a really cute pug.
I didn't notice
There's a
the
really
dog.
cute pug. Yeah, the pug is in a couple scenes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's something to watch out for if you love dogs.
And I have, after that, there was like, it cuts outside with like beautiful set and costumes, and it's rainy, and there's like greens and browns. I just like the cinematography, it was just gorgeous.
Oh my gosh.
And the costumes are
And
gorgeous.
the production design is just like out of this world. I mean, there's it's hard to even describe because it depends on like what planet you're on and like where you're at. Because I mean, it changes so drastically. Like some of it can be like Art Deco, some of it looks like
Modern.
spacecraft.
Art Nouveau, Oriental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all
Oriental
over.
futurism.
It's all over the place.
This is what this whole movie is about, man. It's really like Frank. It's cool because Frank Herbert was obsessed with like the Orient and its influence. A lot of this book a lot of the story is based on like Oriental tales, like Sassanid era Persia, Islamic era, like Baghdad, the kind of like court intrigues and betrayal and uprisings, religious muddies, like religious reformers or messiahs. So it's he drew a lot of influence from that. But
It's like influence and commentary, or just influence? Was it any commentary at the time, or?
I think people are starting to see that he was maybe. I mean, some people said the point is that, I don't want to get into American exceptionalism and sound like a pretentious douchebag, but essentially that there's
Too late, you already said it.
There's no-
Exceptionalism.
Exceptional.
Unlike a lot of science fiction like Star Trek that assumes that people evolve morally and ethically, this is seen in some ways as kind of cynical because people don't change at all.
People don't change.
Like the technology changes, but
People don't.
people don't necessarily.
Okay.
Same shitty people over and over.
Yeah, so everyone wants to be in control of the spice, just like everyone wants to be in control of oil.
Yeah, it's just commentary. I also forgot to mention that when the three, Patrick Stewart, Dean Stockwell, and the other guy show up. They have like a fight scene with the.
They do like a
Polynesians?
test battle with him.
With these like Gumby blockhead looking like
Yeah,
force
it's very
fields.
1984 looking, but
It was just very straight, like just the way like
they look like
force
kind of
field was
crystals, crystallized.
Yeah, it was like square, or like it was just that's not how. It
But
was.
yeah, they
I thought it
basically-
looked awesome.
I mean, it
loved
looks
it.
cool.
For the
It's just-
time, I mean, I'm sure it was like,
physics.
whoa.
Even just at all, it was awesome. I mean, the cheesiness was kind of cool. Like,
You could tell it was like drawn on though for
Mm.
sure. Like I don't know, there's definitely like a disconnect, but it looks it's interesting concept.
I mean, to me, I think that shitty special effects will be seen the same way like old movies where they have a painted background,
Mhm.
or matte paintings. Like matte paintings have been replaced, but they are their own art form.
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
agree.
I mean, I prefer like the analog stuff to CGI
Most of the time, yeah.
So,
I mean, you don't look at an ancient like Chinese painting and be like, "This is not anatomically correct." I hate it. It has its beauty, Anyways,
Yeah, it's
it's just like the Elephant Man.
just like
Actually, he was anatomically correct, but everything else was wrong.
yeah, that's true.
Well,
His
I
whole
mean,
life was wrong.
his
His
genitalia,
was normal.
was fine.
His left arm was normal.
His left
too.
arm was fine.
So he could make with the left arm. Wow, I just went there. And then Kyle MacLachlan fights like the steampunk robot. Like,
Yeah.
thing. That was hilarious.
That was kind of cool.
That was ridiculous.
I liked it
though.
actually. I liked
It
that
was
part.
cool, but I mean, it was clunky for a like a ninja fighting practice machine. You're supposed to like fight for your life.
I loved it. I loved the fact that it was. I mean, it's like it's like art. It's Art Nouveau. So Art Nouveau was what was Art Nouveau? It was integrating
That's
Oriental.
a machine, isn't it? Though also.
Yeah, but the machine is like brass. Like it's made out of brass and copper. It's supposed to look like it's steampunk. It's
Yeah.
it is
so
steampunk.
it's like I love that it was mechanical and completely improbably wood and brass. It's also an expression of wealth. So I mean, having solid things like that is and like if you notice the way that their castle is portrayed on Caladan, they have two things that you later see will be extreme luxuries, and there's also an environmental theme to the book as well. But we can talk about that later.
Okay.
But so, for example, that's how wealthy their world is. They have forests, they have water. The inside of their hall is like magnificent wood. It's like a Norse hall essentially, or a European hall.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Or a hunting lodge. And so compare that to Arrakis, which is desertified.
Nothing there.
Yeah, or the Harkonnen planet, Gidi Prime,
Which is
which
gross.
is a toxic wasteland. Yeah.
Like Blade Runner. It
So-
reminded me of Blade Runner.
So there's also the implication that these are the, I guess you call them progressive humans, who have their shit together and have like intelligent rule.
I see.
But yeah.
Which they become like the protagonists, kind of just through that lens, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why, because they're like, oh, they have the most. They seem really cool. They must be the good guys. So
Right.
yeah. So after the fucking weird robot thing, after the dream, what do we got? His mom, like the weird mother,
Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah. Who,
She's
I don't know,
she's
she's one of the witches, what are they called?
Bene Gesserit.
Bene
Bene
Gesserit.
Gesserits.
That's right.
And she basically tells Paul to go meet with the Reverend Mother and for another test, basically.
Yeah.
And
She's another one of the Bene
and
Gesserits. too.
she's like the head one
Yeah.
of their clan. And she basically gives him this test where he has to put his hand in a box, and she makes him believe that his hand is literally burning off
on fire.
and on fire, and the flesh is like dripping off.
And we see this as the viewer,
Or she'll
right?
stab him in the neck with what she calls a Jom Gabar,
Jom
which is a
Gabar.
poisoned needle.
And it looks
Okay.
like Hot Topic finger armor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So that was something I noted. So basically, it's like, keep your hand in the box or I'm going to kill you. And so
And he said that no man has ever done it, right? No man has ever successfully
done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he like basically is in his head like talking himself through it. Like, what does he say? He says something like
Let the
Fear
fear
is the
pass
little
over
death.
you. The fear that consumes you. Fear is
Yeah.
the mind killer. It's like
Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, it's in the book they explore that. It's the way that they phrase it is: are you a person or an animal? Because an animal just reacts to stimuli, and a human being would be able to recognize that it's just pain stimuli and override their biological reaction,
Oh.
which is kind of it's not that believable, but
Yeah.
But he does successfully do it, and so then the Reverend Mother thinks to herself, like, could he be the one?
Yeah.
The one who's prophesized to save us?
I remember all the weird internal narration I thought was kind of strange, too. It just...
Yeah,
it
there's
was
a lot of,
jarring.
like, telepathy happening.
Yeah, that's true.
So...
Because, like, they're witches.
Yeah.
Bad bitches.
And then, over on Giddy Prime?
I think it's Giddy Prime.
Giddy Prime, which is the House Harkonnen.
It's where Bioshock was set.
Yeah, right. It's very much like that. That's when we finally meet Brad Dourif as Piter, and then we meet the Baron Vlad, who is their lord, and he has like this grotesque face with like bubbling boils and
A plastic surgeon working on him overtime.
yeah, and a plastic surgeon is like basically like removing the pus with like a syringe.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're so beautiful, my master or my lord."
Yeah.
It's really weird.
It is. There's a lot of ass kissing going on, and you realize that he's like a really dangerous person.
He's a corporate CEO.
He's the
So I mean, like, look at the architecture of the way that they portray it. It's like polished concrete floors, ultra modern, hideous architecture.
It's like ahead of its time, almost.
Yeah, I mean, the '80s were full of corporate greedy. I mean, that's where our president got to start.
Yeah, seriously.
Yikes. No problem.
And then standing guard at the door of this room is Jack Nance.
Yeah, he's
So that's
like
pretty
a
cool.
goon.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a lot of lines, but he makes plenty of great faces. And for those of you who may have forgotten, Jack Nance is the main character in Eraserhead, and you know,
not Harry.
and basically he's in everything David Lynch up until he died. Yeah.
His nephews come. He calls his nephews, and one I don't know. One of them, there's a bigger guy, and then there's like a fit guy, and the
There's
fit guy
the
is
bigger guy's like the Beast or
Beast.
something.
Fade and
the Fade is Sting. He's one of them.
Ribbon.
And then there's
Ribbon the Beast. Or
Ribbon the Beast.
Ribbon
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Ribbon.
Ribbon. That's
Ribbon.
correct. And then so they're having a whole conversation. I noticed that they're really milking Sting's like hotness for this movie. So like as Fade
Oh,
/
yeah.
Sting is sitting and talking, he's like stroking a knife like as if it was a penis right above like this cod piece on his crotch.
A lot of homoerotic stuff.
So yeah, he's definitely
I like
like
it.
stroking a knife.
In the book, that they go in, that's actually way more significant in the books. So
Really?
there's like a heavy homoeroticism in the books, and again, that kind of goes back to the like ancient world more style of like corrupt ruling houses and their incest and homoerotic incest and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So like that was consciously put in the book to make them appear as like decadent and depraved. It is
Depraved.
probably a little bit homophobic in retrospect.
Oh, yeah. Now that
Well,
you say
but-
that.
speaking of homoeroticism or homophobia, the Baron. There's a guy who walks in. He's like this little gay boy twink from the '80s.
He's carrying a flower.
He looks like he. Yeah,
Oh,
he's,
yeah,
he's
that
carrying a
poor
flower.
kid.
He looks like he belongs at Danceteria, and
Oh, well.
he's wearing basically a transparent or garbage bag and a jock strap underneath it.
Oh.
And
What is that?
yeah, so
That's cute.
that totally goes into the whole like homo stuff too.
They kind of made sure that it was like,
Yeah.
homosexual.
Yeah,
They
and
didn't make it overt.
And so the
So
Baron.
yeah, I think it's a little bit homophobic in retrospect because
I
he's
guess.
like just this bad, depraved person. And
That's the reason
so
why it's in there?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That's kind of how it was. That's my takeaway from the book, anyways. I could be totally
Because I mean, he is a villain, you
Yeah.
know, and the Baron definitely displays some homo stuff later in the film too.
Yeah.
But
What was really cool, he killed him by pulling out his heart plug. Right?
Yeah.
it's like the ultimate BDSM thing now. It would be the heart plug.
plug,
Like
that's
that,
like
there's
the
definitely this the masochistic pleasure or sadistic pleasure that he takes. So it's implied that he,
Which is a very bad person. He gets
Yeah, I
off
mean,
on
like,
evil and
killing people for
fun.
to get his rocks off. So
Yeah.
Essentially, exactly. Okay.
yeah,
And that's also explored in greater depth in the books. So,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
so at this point we're about 49 minutes into the movie, and I wrote, now I get it. So basically, like, every time I watch this movie, I have no idea what's going on because I just don't really pay attention to like all the story that's being set up because there's so much. So it takes about 49 minutes for them to completely set up the
Everything.
story. So there's a lot of setup happening for like almost the first entire hour.
Yeah, like the first third of the film, I
Mhm.
guess, right? Or wait, it's not 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes?
2 hours and 17 minutes.
Okay, so it's not even at 3 hours. It should be at 3 hours. But,
Yeah.
okay. He who controls the spice controls the universe. He's the Baron during this entire scene where he kills that kid. Like, he just is talking about how he wants to kill the Duke and how the Duke, Jared Leto, will die by his hand. And
we're gonna be calling him Jared Leto for the rest of this podcast.
Oh, and then the Duke also. We forgot to mention the fucking Baron also has the flying suit.
Yeah.
It's just like a giant like I don't even know how to describe it.
It's like a repulsor-less suit. Kind of thing, like anti-grav suit, I think is what they call it.
It blows up too, though. It looks kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't really do that in the books.
Like,
that was more of a very Lynchian add-on there.
Yeah, well, it's hilarious for sure.
It is so funny. So he's like flying around like fucking Mary Poppins after he kills this guy.
Yeah,
super happy.
He's elated. He's elevated.
Yeah.
Gets him high.
Yeah, and then
I wrote Sting's face, LOL.
Sting's
I don't know why.
So, I don't know, I may be skipping forward too fast, but I go next to the David Lynch cameo.
Oh,
Jared Leto comes to Arrakis, because they're going to do an inspection on their spice mining.
That's right.
And one of the spice miners is David Lynch, and he makes a cameo.
Yeah. And, okay, so they're on fucking Arrakis now, from here.
Yeah.
There's a big scene where they, like, get ready to go, but I know there's like the still suits. They introduced the still suits.
Yeah, I mean they just talk about like what their functions are. I don't think it was really that relevant to the movie, at least.
Yeah, because Dune didn't have any water, and how are they going to survive on Dune without water?
I think, but they spent like way too much time talking about like how they work. I feel like.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, these suits are equipped with water. You're good to go. I was fine with that.
The narrative purpose of that was to show that he had a preternatural knowledge of how to set up his still suit. So they talk about it's again in the movie he says he doesn't say, he has a weird voiceover thought monologue, but he has a thought monologue that this guy knew how to do it without ever having been taught, and then it's implied that he is part of this is the prophecy that was foreseen. And then you later find out that on Arrakis, they have a prophecy of somebody it's a Mahdi who is going to come and liberate them. It's going to be a mixture of a liberator and a religious messiah.
Okay. Yeah. So the only reason of this suit is just to show that he may be a little bit Fremen, I guess.
Yeah, he might have...
I'm a little bit Fremen. I'm a little bit rock and roll.
Later in the books, later books, they called the prescience.
Prescience.
Like the ability to be and know multiple places at once, and that's like the next step in human evolution.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like very
Prescience. It sounds like how Lana Del Rey would say presence. Prescience.
My prescience.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, David Lynch.
So they're doing the mining inspection on like some kind of ship or whatever with Dr. Kynes. And Dr. Kynes has the glowing blue eyes, so like the audience knows this is a Fremen. I don't think they know.
He spent too much time around. He's from.
Yeah, I think he. Sorry,
Arrakis,
I'm wrong.
not Arrakis.
Yeah, he's been adopted as a native Fremen.
Okay.
Sorry,
but
he's from some Imperial homeworld or something.
Oh, he's from
So there's also the Imperial homeworld. Sorry, Imperial homeworld is where House Corino is based.
That's the
from
Emperor?
way earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
Salusa Secundus is the training ground of his Sardaukar commandos, the guy in the gas mask. And it's like a prison planet where they mold these guys through fear and barbarity into the ultimate killing machines. And they're really kind of like golems in the Safavid Empire. There's also a lot of Safavid Empire in the world that they built. Anyways.
Okay, that's
Sorry.
interesting.
The word empire just made me realize. Sidebar, David Lynch was actually asked to direct The Empire Strikes Back, and he did Dune instead.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, The Empire Strikes Back was my favorite.
Yeah.
I like David Lynch, but I'm glad Spielberg took that one. John Williams.
Yeah.
Also.
So anyway, so they're like checking in with the mine. David Lynch makes a cameo, and then
There's like lightning in the sand. Like you see like this mining place on Arrakis that they've set up to mine, and there's like all this lightning and stuff happening, and there's like trouble. There's like trouble a brewing.
Trouble of Bruin. Well, yeah, because the mine gets destroyed.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's a harvester, and man, I think
Is that what they mean by the worm, though? Like,
yeah,
okay.
the worm comes.
Yeah.
So here's a spoiler alert: the worms make the spice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just basically
Well,
worm shit.
That's what we find out later.
Yeah. I don't know how nobody has figured this out in thousands of years.
Yeah,
how long it
one would
takes?
think.
But yeah, so
Wow.
I really liked how they did the. I know it looks gimmicky and it doesn't hold up well, special effects wise. But again, it goes back like it's special, like it's distinctively this movie's version of what a giant harvester would be if it got eaten by a worm. Like, it just looks cool.
Yeah,
I think this was that the worm was influential because it reminded me of two things. One, the worm in Beetlejuice.
That's what they got it from.
Whenever they
They got it
and
from
then
Dune.
also the movie Tremors.
They got it from Dune.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because I was like, the worm looks so simple, like the way its mouth
Yeah.
opens and all that. So
I think if they brought it in Beetlejuice, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Can't leave the house.
Sandworms.
I want on that scene. I really wanted to talk. The ship that they have is so cool. Like that goes back to set design or production
the
design,
Yeah.
whatever.
weird, like shaped, like egg.
Anthony
looking
Masters.
things.
Yeah, well, and even on the inside, it's like it's solid brass.
Yeah, it's
Again, it's like solid brass, and then like quilted leather, like the inside of a 1900
luxury.
car.
yeah.
So I mean, it's so cool that they made it. And again, it goes back to like the wealth because they have the wealth for like solid brass, and it's just in a very material way.
Yeah.
We think about wealth in terms of like money, but people that already have everything don't really truly like nobility like that. Wouldn't think of things like that. They would think of just the actual material wealth.
items.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so
and that shows that they have.
and they did a really good job of portraying like a basic what would fucked up feudal society look like in the future. It would probably be very unequal, and you would have stuff like that. And I thought that was a great detail.
No, I thought it was kind of over the top, but it was really pretty. I just
But it still
enjoyed
works, yeah.
And it's beautiful to look at. It's
I
like
just like the way the ship was shaped. I just didn't see how like it could like fly like that. But I don't really think physics matters too much in this.
it's like it's an ornithopter is what it's supposed to be. So it's like wing flapping.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
oh,
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
When I first started studying David Lynch and getting really into him, I would just put this movie on mute because I didn't care so much about the story. I just loved the visuals. Like, I was
The visuals are
obsessed.
amazing. Yeah.
The colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it for the story, at least watch it for the goddamn visuals. It's good.
Mhm. So the next scene I have is the one where Dr. Yui is revealed to be a traitor to Atreides. And he has this whole back and forth with Jared Leto. Where he's basically like, you're gonna kill the Baron, I'm gonna give you a poison gas tooth. Okay, well, prior to that, I guess Kyle MacLachlan like is having to stand still because there's a hider-seeker coming for him, like this syringe-looking thing that's floating in the air.
Yeah,
And
and
those have been hijacked
Wait, where are they?
by Dr. Yui.
Are they back on? Are they on Arrakis when this is happening?
No, they're back at Caladan.
So they so when they see the thing, the harvester get destroyed, they go back to the base there, and then they go back to Caladan. Is that right? Okay.
yeah. So also spoiler, it's revealed that the in the third or fourth book that humanity is wiped out by an evolved version that gets out of control of those little hunter seeker things.
That's awesome.
And so the whole purpose of the entire movie is the series, and the whole purpose of the Messiah is to be such a tyrant that people flee from him and escape those or develop the means to fight those things.
Whoa.
So it's just cool because it's just this random part of the very first part of the entire story.
I like that idea.
Yeah, and it's like this tiny little thing. It's like, oh yeah, these ended up killing
Like
everything.
bees.
Every human in the known universe.
Yeah.
So they're like little syringe, like needles, syringe things, like brass, very decadent looking.
Like one of the advanced societies that banks them, I think that's Ixians. They become self-aware. It's Terminator style, and it just repeats itself again.
So I thought if they can't have machines, if they're not allowed to have machines, then like why are all the like there's the harvester, there's a bunch of like
Those are human operated, either remotely or
so no
in
computer
situ.
operated
Yeah.
machine.
So,
So that makes sense.
getting back to Kyle MacLachlan, there's like, what is it called? A hider-seeker? Is that what it's called?
Hunter Seeker, yeah.
Hunter Seeker. And so there's a Hunter Seeker. He's got to sit still because and then it almost kills the little short lady from Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out
yeah.
Mopes.
the housekeeper.
Shout out Mopes.
Shut Up Mates.
Shut Up
Yeah,
She's
Mapes.
cute.
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, he saves her, and that's when we find out that basically Dr. Yui has hijacked the Hunter Seekers, and then they have the scene where Jared Leto's instructed to kill the Baron with a poison gas tooth, and basically, like, Leto will die along with the Baron whenever he bites into this tooth.
Because of the gas.
I knew a guy with a tooth like that once.
What?
What happened to him?
Oh, no, yeah, that was good. No, that had a stinky, toxic tooth.
Oh. Whoops.
There's my 1950s joke.
Will that kill people?
So Leto's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And then Yui's like, yeah, you are, because I have Jessica and Paul captured, and I'm going to kill them if you don't.
Yeah, and so there's a bunch of war happening then. And, oh yeah, we forgot to talk about, like, their sound-based, like, fighting system.
The
But
weirding way.
The
and
weirding
the
way.
weirding
And
yeah.
killing words. And
So it's not really well explained, but they turned concentrated thought and words amplified into sonic weapons.
I do that in Rocket League.
Nice, yeah. so they have those, and I don't. It's kind of like the Force, I guess, would be the best way to look at it. Is you don't really want an explanation, because once you get it, you'll get midichlorians or something.
You'll get what?
Midichlorians.
That's what ruined Star Wars. It's something that George Lucas put in towards
To try to explain the Force
Yeah, for no
whenever it
reason.
didn't need to be
Oh,
explained.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's
I don't
the
know
weird-
the whole Star Wars universe that well.
It's the weirding modules, yeah.
Yeah, it's the weird.
I only went and saw the
Except
most
for, you know-
recent one just because Laura Dern was in it.
Oh yeah, I finally watched that. It
Yeah.
was good. I liked it.
I mean,
I actually liked it. I didn't like the others.
I didn't care. I mean, I've just never cared about Star Wars, but that's just me.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I like it.
But anyway, yeah, there's the whole war thing I wrote. Hilarious Michael Bay explosions.
Yeah, there was just weird like.
Like, it's so
on
not
top of-
Lynchian. Like, it's like, you know, it's like the producers being like, we need, like, huge explosions. And, like, I'm just like, okay. 'Cause, I mean, the only time, like, Lynch is going to do an explosion if it's, like, an atomic bomb.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
That's the only time he has done an explosion.
Except for this movie.
Yeah. I have Patrick Stewart with a dog, screaming with a gun.
Is that the pug?
I think so.
Okay.
That's the pug. It must be. He has
Yeah.
like a dog. And he's
Does the dog have a
and
name
gun.
in the book? Is the dog in the book?
It's the dog.
I don't remember.
I'm asking the important questions here, Black Velvet.
Yeah, I don't remember, actually. I'm curious.
And then we find out that Baron has Kyle and his mom,
Yeah, they're captured.
Paul McLaughlin.
And, like, Jessica can't use her, like, powerful weirding way voice because, like, they got her gagged.
Yeah.
That's when Kyle, like, tests his voice a little bit.
So the other witches have these voices that can basically make you do whatever they tell you to do.
Yeah, that's known as
It's like
the
a
voice.
Jedi mind trick, yeah.
Yeah.
It's mind control.
These are not the drones you're looking for, George.
This is the voice!
Oh.
You know that show?
Like the show, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I wasn't sure. I was like, is that? I don't know. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so, like,
I think that's the weirding. Like, in its raw form.
yeah, well, it's part of it. It's part of the weirding way.
And then, so the Baron spits on Kyle's mom. I remember this and says,
Yeah,
"I
it's
wish
gross.
I was Paul." Like, no, it's like a voiceover. I wish. Oh no, I wish this was Paul. Like, the voiceover in his head. It was just so jarring. The weird voiceover is just. It's like we know what's going on.
Yeah. And so,
Oh yeah.
whatever, somehow they ended up, like,
Using the voice.
They use the voice because Kyle MacLachlan discovers his weirding way voice and gets one of the guys to kill the other bad guy that has them captured on, like, whatever spacecraft that they're on.
Yeah.
And they get up and they're like, they take control. So then we cut back to Baron and Piter, and they kill Dr. Yui because they know he's a traitor to the Harkonnens. And both Jessica and Paul realize that Jared Leto is dead now.
Yeah, they start crying because they can they feel that he's dead. Wait, did you touch upon the ring? Like, for some reason the Baron really, really wants the ring.
Yeah.
What is this a sign of
Just power.
the trophy of conquest?
Well, he also, like,
So-
puts the
okay.
ring in something later on and activates something.
Like Captain Planet?
I don't remember.
Well, it's like a signet or something. And
Yeah,
he,
it's a
like,
signet ring.
He puts it in there, and maybe it doesn't activate something. Maybe I'm just
I
thinking.
think he maybe like.
Maybe I was expecting it to activate something, but it was actually just okay. Never mind.
Yeah, it was just his wax seal. Yeah.
Just activate the powers of male.
I was too, like, concerned with the pug. But anyway, yeah. So like
He's dead.
he's dead.
He's
Oh no!
dead.
But like the spice basically starts to kind of like. Oh wait, they crash, right?
They crash on the ship and they're fine. They're totally fine after crashing.
Not even like a little mark or
a little
scuff.
disheveled. But
Yeah.
they have the ring.
They have
the ring.
they have the ring. The two captors are dead.
I wrote, why did they need the ring so badly? I just don't. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's a sign of the continuation of the house. I mean, it's like losing your, for a nobleman,
Losing
it's
your-
like losing your flag or
Letter jacket?
letter jacket. Yeah, it's completely irrelevant in real life. Yeah. But I mean, if you buy into this world, that's everything because that's their legitimacy.
Status is everything.
Status, yeah.
And proof of status, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're on Arrakis when they crash, and then they're kind of like Jessica's freaking out, like, oh my god, she's really annoying and like
Yeah,
doesn't
she's
know what to
ridiculous.
do. And Paul starts to awaken, and it's the spice that's awakening him as the possible Messiah. And so they end up like discovering some steps that are human carved through the rock.
These rocks.
And so they go down, and that's when they run into Big Ed from Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
And that's when they discover the Fremen.
Which, yeah, that's when they find the people in Arrakis with the blue eyes.
Yeah.
They had like
So
the suits
the
on.
people who have been hiding out in Arrakis, the Fremen, they discover them in this kind of these caves. So they crashed in just the right place.
Of course they did.
On the entire planet.
And the spice is making Kyle MacLachlan psychic to his unborn sister. So yeah, his mom is pregnant.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to mention that.
She took the water of life, which is just a baby worm put into water while she was pregnant, and so it allowed the daughter Alia, is it Alia?
Yeah, Alia.
To become aware and then also access all of her ancestor memories while in the womb. So
Okay.
she became fully grown adult in the womb as a
Bene
baby.
Gesserit or whatever.
And I bet Bene Gesserit with Bene Gesserit powers and stuff.
Okay, so.
It's interesting too because Alia, Alicia,
Oh yeah.
they're very similar.
Yeah. What else was I going
So
also before that they use a thumper to get away so they run into the worm. That's why they're on the rocks.
and thumpers are the things that attract worms.
Yeah, and they also have the plan for the weirding modules that Yui left them. So Yui was like bad and good, I guess. But I remember the quote: if you walk without rhythm, you won't attract the worm." And that's from Fatboy Slim sampled that for Weapon of Choice.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
So, yeah.
Nice catch.
Is it another? Can I give a shout out for a great album that uses clips from Dune in it?
Yes.
Including the prophecy stuff. Antichrist sperm donor. It's an Antichrist sperm
That's the
donor.
name of the band.
That's the name of it's a rap group from Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yeah, they're
Arkansas.
like underground rap. If you can find a copy of that album, it's awesome. And he uses
How old
Dune
is this
samples.
album?
Yeah. When did this come out?
The early 2000s.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
It's really good. I highly
Make me a
recommend it.
playlist.
I've got to find a copy of this first.
Is it
Maybe it's on Spotify. Yeah.
I don't know. So.
It'll be on YouTube. Everything's
So
on
like
Yeah.
Spotify.ru.
Yeah.
Sort of better
Or you could
Russia.
use the internet like Wayback Machine to maybe
Yeah.
see if there's like a cache somewhere. But anyway, Jessica makes Big Ed talk, and then there's kind of like a little bit of a fight, and Paul MacLachlan wins, and that's when Chani shows up, and she's from his dreams.
And she's also for the daughter or the person in Blade Runner.
Yeah, Sean Young. She plays the
Sean Young.
Sean Young. Yeah, so she's in Blade Runner as the
She's beautiful.
android. Yeah.
Speaking of Blade Runner, I believe that Dino De Laurentiis produced that one.
Yeah, and didn't we find out that there was a lot of influence from Blade Runner from Dune or vice versa? One of them took one from
So
the other.
the aforementioned art, which I mentioned that they spent the entire budget of Jodorowsky's Dune on, was later reused. Some of those artists, production designers, guys like that, costume designers, went on to work in other sci-fi movies.
That's
For
cool.
example, where they find the original derelict alien ship or whatever in the beginning of Aliens.
Yeah.
So that's based on drawings from Dune.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the other stuff, like all the H.R. Giger stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
that was originally developed, I think, for Gidi Prime. Was supposed to look like the inside of the alien ship.
That makes sense.
So, like the biomechanical horror
I see the
aesthetic.
similarities.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, in Blade Runner too.
In Blade Runner
so.
too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Chani, who's been showing up in his dreams from earlier, like, I don't know why she's so special. She's just like one of the big Fremen, but...
It's like his girlfriend. It's his lady.
Yeah, so she's like, Usul is your code name, and we're going to call you Paul Muad'Dib.
No, he calls himself Muad'Dib. Right?
Okay, yeah.
after
Well, they're like,
after-
what do you want to call yourself? Muad'Dib.
So
There was a dream. The dream unfolds, but who is the dreamer? I have that written down. Sorry, go ahead.
I love the dream sequences in this movie.
That's
Those are very Lynchian.
They're, I mean, it is, and I like this movie. I mean, I know a lot of David Lynch fans don't like it, but I like it, and I like
I like
even.
sci-fi.
Yeah, well, I've come to appreciate the Lynchian elements in it more than I did originally, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, the dream sequences are
Yeah.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
And they also rename his mom Jessica to, what is it, Synadia?
Ooh, I
Something
don't
like
know.
that?
something like that, yeah, whenever, because she takes the place of their local priest lady.
Yeah,
which
she
being
becomes
Jesuit.
like their Reverend Mother.
Reverend Mother, that's the word I
Yeah.
said before.
And so while they're down there, Chani's like giving them a tour of the caves, and they find out they have like a shitload of water. They have thousands of caches of water.
Yeah, that's right. And they said that if they teach them the weirding way, then they can basically hang out with them and learn their ways, right? Essentially, they're kind of like a tit for tat, the Fremen and
Yeah,
all this
and
kind of-
they like I said, they're convinced that he's their Messiah, and so he has promised to liberate Arrakis and make their dream of a green Arrakis a reality.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, and one of the things I wrote down too is the codename Usul is supposed to mean the strength of the base of the pillar.
That's right.
Mhm.
So that's where that came from.
And I remember in the dream sequence from earlier, she appears in his dream and is like, Usul, tell me of your homeworld. Or tell me of your homeworld, Usul. And then whenever I think, he and Chani have a one-on-one IRL, she says that to him, and that's when he, realizes, what's going on. And he's kind of, in his dream, apparently.
He's unlocking his prescience powers.
Yeah, there we go.
Prescience.
The power of prescience.
I also wrote, I'm starting to take
Prescience.
notes that look like the book House of Leaves, because I'm writing sideways and upside down and all over the fucking place.
Yeah, backwards.
I'm just oh, this too, because there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
Guy
I think I have
Pearce
so
in
much-
Memento.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So, I don't know. The next thing is the big fade scene, but I don't know if there's something that happens between that.
I have from the dream, it goes to Harkonnen.
Oh, yeah. And then, so this is when we get, Sting stepping out of steam, and he's in, I don't even know what you would call it, a blue bikini, but it's, made of, tennis shoe, leather with, wings.
Oh, yeah. It was, suede-y.
And he just comes out, and it's, this big,
It's blue velvet.
it goes along with the homoeroticism. He steps out, and he's just, perfect and, beautiful or whatever.
I'm trying to figure
and
out.
then the Baron's, turned on. He's, panting.
Yeah, he's, really into his nephew.
Well, that's also his designated heir.
Oh.
Yeah. So...
I guess that makes sense. So he's in love with himself, a younger version.
Yeah, in the book, actually, it goes back to essentially narcissism.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Because it looks like I think he was a young him or something like. He looks exactly like him when he was younger.
Yikes.
And it goes into the whole ancestral theme, too, that you were
Yeah.
talking about. So, Baron's, gloating about, how they have, killed a bunch of people and from Atreides, and says that he plans to send Fade to end the Atreides once he's killed enough of them. So
Yes.
that's pretty much the point of
Yeah.
that scene.
He's a baddie.
Yeah. And then later, Jessica gives birth to Alia.
Wait, hold on. Before this, the fur.
A queen
He was
is
captured, and he's
Wait, who's captured?
the fur, the mentat,
Yeah, he's captured and forced to
milk a cat.
a cat for the antidote to the toxin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I have that written down. I was like, what is... Oh, okay. And it's a hairless cat. So that happened.
So anyway, so Baron, so he's gonna send Fade to end the Atreides once he's killed enough of them. Then Jessica gives birth to Alia, and then Paul and Chani randomly fall in love and have sex, despite having only met once.
Yeah, some montage.
And Paul's like, Chani, I love you. I've always loved you. And it's like, you just met like 5 minutes ago.
It was weird.
So this is something that was probably cut. Like,
this
I
is
feel like
plot that
there was...
No, I mean, that's explored also in the book, is like just the instant love and love at first sight and soulmates. That's very...
It doesn't work in this movie, in the context of this movie, though, like, at all. Like,
It's
I
not-
literally laughed out loud.
The editing doesn't work because, like, it just
They don't
places
do
him in,
this.
like, an 80s montage, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like,
it's just kind of like...
like she's like, hi, I'm Chani, nice to meet you. And he's like, I've always loved you. And it's just like... okay, it just doesn't make sense. I was like laughing because I was like, this just...
I always laughed during that montage too.
Yeah.
It was just very weird.
I was
It's
like, why? It was so...
It's paced.
It's so abrupt.
Yeah. It's paced very strangely.
That's whenever Paul goes and trains the army the weirding ways.
And I thought it was strange he wanted to destroy the spice, because I thought everybody's like, we like the spice, you know, want to have the spice, but he's like, he who destroys a thing controls a thing.
Yeah.
Is his thing,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. So that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna fight with the weirding way, and they're fighting this weird rock formation, this like awesome rock formation in a room. I totally like the monolith kind of looking thing from 2001. And I wrote down Hadouken. So that's, and then he says, somebody says his name, Wadib, and their weirding way gun like goes off and shoots the rock, and he's like, oh fuck, my name's a killing ward. So that's kind of strange that his name is like a killing
Name
word.
is a killing word.
My name is a killing word.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he puts like the thumpers out and they try to like ride the worm.
Right.
Which I also laughed out loud at this scene.
It was pretty bad.
Kyle MacLachlan and Big Ed are riding on top of the giant worm, and it cuts to like this super 80s like Brian Eno guitar, like, and they're just like holding onto ropes, like I don't know. It just looks super fake, and it's so over the top.
Like jet ski type.
Yeah, it looks like they're jet skiing on top of a worm, and it just kind of like that's another like really like abrupt cut that you're just like, oh no, but it's fabulously 80s.
Somebody took too much cocaine at Hodorowski's castle.
Yeah. Well, just the editing is like, we gotta make it fast, even though the entire first half of the movie was super slow.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just makes no sense why it's so quickly edited.
And then there's like, while they're like having this battle that they're going into, like there's like a voiceover that just totally doesn't fit at all. And then we have the Emperor's Daughter being like, Paul and Chani's love grew. And I'm like, why are you telling us this in the middle of a battle scene?
Yeah, it was literally in the middle of the battle scene.
Yeah.
Like, people were fighting and they're like, oh, by the way,
Oh, and by the
this
way,
happened.
yeah, then you see like kind of like juxtaposed over like the battle scene is like them like making out or whatever.
Yeah, and isn't there like other stuff that's like being cut into that, thrown into that whole thing too?
Yeah, they talk a little bit about how Alia's been born finally, and yeah, so
A lot of exposition over a battle scene that is not related to the
it
battle.
is. Yeah, so it was just like this. That whole like the whole edit
It
of
was
that is just
weird.
terrible.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Maybe it was to kind of be like, ain't no thing. I don't know.
I think it was just them being like, we gotta like get this down to 2 hours. So,
That's
what
what I think
are
it
we
was
cutting?
too. Yeah, I really think it was that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there were like battle scenes that just got taken out because they were like, we get it.
I mean, I don't know why they just didn't take like the battle scene out and put in like the plot.
Yeah, I would have liked.
A few seconds of people fighting would have done the deal.
Yeah, we know
Because
they're
Chani
fighting.
had no character development for being such an supposedly important
Yeah,
character.
that's true. She was kind of just like
She's just there.
Like she was
Yeah.
just in his dreams, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
So we're like, okay, they love each other.
okay.
Don't know why. So basically, Paul goes and drinks the water of life.
Yes.
And we find out he's the one. Duh.
He is the
We
one,
already
because he
fucking
would have
knew
died
that.
if not. And his mom and sis start bleeding. There was just weird dialogue like, a place terrifying to women, traveling without moving.
So ancestor memory is sex dependent for some reason. I don't remember how they explain it. But
Misogyny, probably.
yeah, women can't see the male ancestor memory, and men cannot do it at all. So Paul is the first male to ever do the spice agony.
Interesting.
So the spice agony is what she did whenever she became a Reverend Mother. Paul's mom.
She drank the water? Or?
Yeah, what's Paul's mom name again?
Jessica.
Jessica, duh.
But they rename her.
They renamed her?
Yeah, they gave her some other name called like Synadia
I
or
don't
something
remember
like
that.
Yeah,
that.
it was something simple like
The
Jessica.
Kremen.
She was
But
Jessica
anyways,
at first.
Yeah. So Jessica drinks it, and yeah, so she gets access to all of her ancestor memory, and then so does her daughter. and then he does it. But I guess since they didn't know this, but he's accessed his male ancestor memory as well.
Oh, that was
and that's when he has the
So
realization.
that's why he's so smart, because almost like
he knows everything.
multiple personality or possession. So if you're weak-minded, they can actually take over your mind,
That's right.
and which happens in the later book with his sister Alia.
Oh.
And the Baron Harkonnen takes over her mind.
That's pretty cool.
Because, oh shit, spoiler alert. But anyways.
That's
This whole podcast is spoilers.
Yeah, okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So he's the first one to do the spice agony, and so now he has thousands times more knowledge, experience.
And he says, "Father, the sleeper has awakened," like comically.
Dun-dun. And then he has the realization: you control the worm, you control the spice. The worm is the spice.
Yes. Finally, somebody has that realization.
It took a supernatural revelation to realize that it was the worm.
Yeah,
shit.
it's like the audience knew all along, but
Do you think people were on the plains of the America, like whenever we first moved here or whatever, and they were like, "Where's all this wonderful cow pies or buffalo shit coming from?" And then, there's millions of buffalo,
I
and
just couldn't figure it out.
yeah, I don't know what else would.
No one
cause
just
this.
saw a cow excrete. No one saw a worm excrete at all.
Well, I mean, it's like, what don't they have anywhere else? The worms.
Yeah.
What else is there? There's no other life but the worms. Okay, so it's probably the worms.
It's probably the goddamn worms. Jesus. Oh yeah, and Kyle MacLachlan's eyes turn blue. I remember that.
yeah, because he drank the water.
He drank. Well, he's Fremen though.
He's Fremen.
He's a free man.
He's a convert.
Yes. He's they're riding the worms.
The Raid of the Worms, there's all that other stuff that we just talked about, and then there's this hilarious, spectacular 80s climax, which has the battle between the Fremen and the Emperor's army,
Okay.
and that just has a bunch more Michael Bay style explosions.
Yeah, just the weird out of place, obviously layered on top of each other explosions.
And so you feel they're just hurrying this movie along. They're here's the climax, all of a sudden, and you're just okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this goes on for a really long time, but it's pretty great. The music's awesome for the 80s.
Again, the set production design. So the periscope
Oh yeah.
automated turrets
Those are pretty cool.
made out of what appears to be solid brass or solid gold is, again, it's so crazy and awesome. I love that.
That's over the top, yeah.
It's so over the top. It's so
Steampunk,
Steampunk, yeah.
Bioshock. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was an interesting concept.
Yeah, I really like that, and I like the whole design of his ship and everything. Anyways, just to say that again, the way that they did the weird pyramid, but the battle is pretty cheesy, and the wailing guitar doesn't help.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
help.
The
Does
cheese
not.
factor. Where? Because it's the
Goddamn
theme
Brian
that's
Eno.
normally
Right.
done.
The theme borders on the cheesiness of the Lost Boys.
Yeah, it really
But
does.
and if anything falls flat, I think it's the soundtrack. I'm sorry.
And
It's also
and that's-
pretentious,
yeah.
but also cheesy.
it's catchy, but it's too cheesy for everything.
I think it was just they were just trying to be this is 1984. What 1984 sounds like. They didn't really think beyond that.
They're just what's the most
Yeah.
epic thing you can piece together
right
in
now
the next hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we got.
That's what we got.
Thank you, Brian Eno.
So they have that whole battle, and then the Baron finally.
It's with the Emperor, right? Them together in some scene.
Yeah, the Baron and the Emperor together, and Alia is there, and she's like, haha, we're gonna kill your entire army. And then she actually ends up killing Baron with her Hot Topic finger armor.
What?
The whatever you call the little...
Gom Jabbar
the Gom Jabbar.
or Jom Jabbar, I don't know.
Jam Jabbar. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
He flies out the window into a worm.
I like that he went. It wasn't enough that he
The Baron
got stabbed with that, and so he was going to die. But then he flew out of
He
the
got
20th story of this ship, so he would have died. And on top of everything else, he got eaten by the worm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt. And that was a little heavy-handed by David Lynch
over
here.
the top.
But it's also silly, and I like that.
Yeah.
I never appreciated how silly it was until the last time we watched it.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, oh, he was making it silly on purpose.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of irony in Lynch's work. I bet he was just
Oh,
tired
yeah.
of it, and he was like, "Okay, let's do this."
You can tell Lynch is just
See what
okay,
happens.
fuck you. I'm gonna let the financiers have their way, and this is what's gonna happen.
Sorry about it.
So,
Because he was like, I'm going to make sure the audience knows he's dead.
yeah. This motherfucker is dead.
And then he comes back to life.
Yeah, right.
No, he does come back in the
Are you serious?
in the form of Alia's consciousness. Yeah, he takes over her consciousness.
Oh my god.
He doesn't really come back to life. His body doesn't come back to life.
No.
If that makes you feel any better.
Yeah. I don't know. And then, okay, I wrote, and maybe I just missed something. I was like, why is the old Mother Reverend alive again? Like the original Mother Reverend.
Yeah, she was supposed to die.
She's like there, and she died whenever Jessica replaced her, but then
That
like
sounds
she's there later. And
No, that was just the local village, or they call it a wali. They're
Uh-huh.
little rock settlements. So they sleep in those rocks and have settlements inside those rocks because the worms can't get into solid rock.
But I'm talking
No, this
about
is back at the-
with Baron and the Emperor.
Back at the-
There's a Mother Reverend there during that scene.
When Alia's like,
And it's I'm pretty sure it's the old Mother Reverend who died earlier. I don't know why she's in this scene.
No. So that's just another identical. That confused me the first couple times I saw this movie as well. That's just another Reverend Mother that was living in that rock, and then when she dies and passes her memories on to Jessica, and that's like the High Septon one.
So but was it played by the same actress, or was it a different...
No, it was just like really bad idea to not
But
make
after
any
that
distinctions.
scene, but like back at with the Emperor
At
and
the
Baron.
Emperor's palace.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Very-
that's the one that's in the very, very, very beginning. So
Yeah.
But
that
why
does
is
this, the pain box.
Why is she there?
Yeah, the
She's
pain
not-
box is a different person?
Yeah, the pain box
Oh.
and the one at the end are the same person, but
What?
they're different.
They
What?
look the same, but they're different.
No,
Is that what you're saying?
there's 3 scenes with Reverend Mothers. There's the one in the beginning where they do the pain
With
box.
the box.
There's the second, and that's the High Bene Gesserit who's in charge of the whole organization.
Right.
She's the one.
And then in the middle, whenever they get to live with the Fremen, there's one that Jessica takes over for, and she dies.
Yeah.
They just didn't do any kind of good job showing the difference in them.
Okay.
Because it looks like the same
They
exact
look the
person.
So they're
Same.
different?
And they're different. And then at the end, you see the one with the pain box again. At the end, that's
what
the
I'm
one with the
saying.
pain box.
But isn't
Yeah.
she dead?
She's dead.
Isn't she supposed to be dead because of Jessica? Because Jessica drank the...
No, that's a different one. There's 2
But they
different...
look identical.
Yeah, they look identical, but it's just
But
because
the
they
pain
didn't
box,
do a good
but the
job.
pain box lady died.
The pain box lady
No,
did
that's a
not
different
die.
one. Pain
I
box
thought
lady-
she did that.
I thought she did too.
No, that's a different random, because they're just like any other Catholic church or something. They have a branch everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So,
they
like-
all look the same.
Yeah, I mean, they would all use the same...
Face,
They
like
have like that
Arya.
bald head thing.
Maybe,
that
I don't
Grace
know.
Jones look.
Yeah,
So they're not the same person, but they are.
right.
Okay, whatever. They did not make that clear. to
In
me.
the book,
I did
it's
not
clear
make-
that they're 2 different people.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I'm
it's
totally
definitely not
confused.
clear.
I didn't
It's
notice
not
that,
clear.
but yeah.
Okay, so whatever. Baron's dead. There's another Mother Reverend there who's different but not. And then finally, that's when Fade Sting comes to
Yeah.
have a showdown with Paul.
I love Sting's suit.
Yeah,
It's very good.
yeah.
It's
And
good.
but the scene is kind of anticlimactic for me. Like
Oh yeah, I mean, like you know who's gonna win too. It's not like who's gonna.
it just
When
kind of happens.
Sting-
Like we just went from like major like music and explosions to like this scene where they're fighting and there's no music at all,
Yeah.
and it's just like.
Is this the climax?
And they're like kind of like shadow boxing a little bit, and then like Paul just kills him with the poison dagger. Yay!
Yeah, that's the end.
But then the finale, I feel, is the climax of the whole movie.
That is the climax, but it's
So-
anticlimactic.
Well, I mean, I disagree, and I'll give you the reason why. Do you remember after he stabs him, he uses the voice on him?
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful facial blast that it explodes his chest and cracks the floor. Remember that?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
And then the best part of the movie is next. Everyone gasps in horror, and the Fremen, his companion, goes, "Ooh, Moadib." And it's like that weird, like, ooh, yeah, like, and it's so inappropriate. And again, he had to have
That's
put that
the
in on
climax.
purpose, right?
I guess. I mean,
Like that comment is so ridiculous that it has to be a joke.
I'm sure like Moadib is supposed to be there on purpose. I don't know if like the way he said it is supposed to be.
Well, maybe because
Yeah.
I mean there is all the
the
homoeroticism,
homoerotic,
but
yeah.
so basically Emperor Shaddam, if I'm saying that correctly,
Padawam.
has to like basically just go along with it at this point. He doesn't have much choice. He just has to like he surrenders essentially.
Yeah.
So he marries his daughter and becomes the emperor.
Is that what happens at the end?
Yeah, so he forces the Emperor Shaddam to.
Does that happen in the movie?
I thought it did.
I don't think so.
That does not happen in the
How do I
movie.
remember?
No,
I
basically,
don't
like, Emperor Shaddam agrees to it, and then, like, they're just like, peace has been restored, and, like, you know, or we got Arrakis, and then, like, that's pretty much the end.
Yeah. He becomes king because, of course, women can't, OMG. And then he is the Kitzbach Cataract. And I also wrote that, they keep talking about God, but they can, like, fold space and hang out with aliens. So, like, what type of religion do they have?
In Dune?
Yeah.
It's called the Orange Catholic Bible, and it's a mixture
Serious?
of all the Christian religions and Islam.
So it's monotheistic?
Yeah, it's like a monotheistic, just amalgam.
That's kind of weird for
that-
everything.
So yeah, I mean, it was, and then it was founded by, so in the origins of the series, I told you that cyborgs terminated and went Skynet and took over these cyborgs, and so they enslaved humans, and so the remaining humans banded together, and that's why they ended up to overthrow them, and that's why they ended up merging the religion, and then there was like a prophet of that religion that delivered them from the robots.
Where's their God?
Well, yeah, so and then it turns out that all the powerful factions that emerged from that have been ruling.
Okay.
So that's where the Carinos come from, that's where the Harkonnens come from, and that's where the Atreides come from.
Okay.
They're like, I guess, the people that survived. I mean, they were still like future nobility, but they got their power by defeating them.
The robots and all
And
that
so,
stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
so they have that, but
That makes
there's a
sense.
lot of like, and in the book also, there's a lot of kind of like Sufistic, Islamic liberation theology type stuff in the book, like the Mahdi and all this stuff like that. It's not necessarily Islamic. That was kind of I mean, all those religions of the Near East had a very similar format.
Of course.
But, so, yeah, I think that's the case.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
And then, wait, you said the Emperor marries his daughter? Hold on. Let's
That's-
get back.
that's-
The
No,
Emperor
gotta be
marries
in the
his
book.
daughter to Paul.
Oh.
And so Paul becomes emperor, yeah.
They
What
show.
about Chani?
That's what I want to know. Like, what happened to Chani? Paul and Chani's love grew. Oh, bye,
And
Chani.
died.
No,
They're
they, in fact,
gonna
in
die.
the books, they stay together, and that's his real wife, and the other wife is just officially, but they're actually friends. Like,
Oh.
the
They're BFFs?
princess, yeah, the
So they
princess.
just take the titles and then.
So Princess and
Yeah.
Chani are friends?
Yeah, the princess and Paul and Chani are, like, Chani doesn't like her, but,
Do they do threesomes, or?
no, I thought they
They're
were going to do
throuple.
that, but, yeah, they have kind of a little bit of a rivalry, but ultimately they become, like, best friends. Like, it's really...
Interesting.
That sounds like Hemingway's The Garden of Eden. Okay.
Yeah, I have the. Okay, so what the fuck is up with the credits? Is all I have with pictures. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
the
So
pictures.
anyway, the mood that's like pieces
80s
restored.
credits.
He's the king. We don't really. I
That's
never
it,
got
that's
that he
all it
married
is,
the
right?
emperor's daughter.
I
Yeah,
didn't
they have
either.
like the weird credit sequence where it's just like the pictures of all the cast,
Just like
the main
showing
cast.
them like smiling and
Yeah.
like, their names next to their faces.
Right, like it's the opening of like a reality TV show
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
fucking weird as hell for like.
The Real Housewives of Arrakis.
Yeah, Housewives of Arrakis.
So whatever, then they play like the Brian Eno theme.
I have
and,
like this terrible piano, piano music.
yeah, and that's the fucking movie.
That's Dune.
That's
So,
Dune.
Any takeaways, comments? What do you?
I hope everyone's perception of this film has changed and they like it now.
I hope that mine has always been
You
a
know-
favorable view. Just I always thought it was really, really like slow and then really, really rushed. Like that's my
That
problem.
I still agree that it's slow and then really rushed. And then also I've always like hated this movie. However, it's been a long time since I watched it, and I always felt like nothing really happened in this movie. But because I actually paid attention to the first 49 minutes this time, I was like, okay, there are actually things happening that I understand. So I appreciate it more than I used to, even though it's definitely one of my least favorite David Lynch films.
Yeah,
But
I think I like it better than Elephant Man.
what?
Yeah, I do. It's more interesting to watch. There's more stuff going on. I like the sci-fi
To each
stuff,
their
too.
own. To each
Yeah.
their own.
I do love Elephant Man.
Elephant Man's
Yeah,
good too. I mean,
it's a great
it's
one.
more Elephant Man's cohesive, but it's just more fun to watch. I think Dune is more fun to watch.
Thank you,
than-
how wonderful.
Thank you. I've never been treated this way before.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to our podcast, and we want to give a very special thanks to Black Velvet for joining us today, and thank you for giving us all the info on the backstory behind Dune. We could not have done this without you.
You really couldn't have.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, just want to plug my new show,
What's your new show?
Black Velvet.
Black Velvet.
Black Velvet?
Okay.
Okay.
The radio show.
Black Velvet,
That's,
the radio
is this
show.
real?
Yeah, to be real.
I like it.
Okay, well,
We'll keep you updated on Black Velvet, the radio show in
Yeah.
the future. Yeah, okay.
In case I don't do it, don't look for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll let you know.
Don't Google
we'll
it.
keep you updated. Actually, Google it. Let me
Google
know.
it.
Let us know
What
you
comes
find.
Don't do a background check on me.
Don't do a background check on it.
what did we Google the other day, and it brought up, like, gay furry porn? And we were just, like,
Oh, yeah.
looking...
Your browser history?
No.
It was like, it was something super benign. It was like we were looking up how to do like some sort of editing or like light box. It was
Oh
like
yeah,
something-
we looked up some kind of like we were like trying to figure out like something to do with DIY lighting for a photo shoot we were doing.
Oh.
And
I'm pretty
like
sure it was
one of
it.
the first things that we looked up something, yeah, totally like,
not related to what was
and
pulled up.
the first thing that came up was like gay furry porn. And
Yeah.
we were like, what?
Gay furry porn, which was like none of the words that we searched.
Not,
or-
yeah, I
it
was like, why is that the first result? So
Yeah.
Is
anyway,
there no
really
love for straight furry porn?
I don't know.
Google that too.
Google that.
Don't. And don't Google image
Is
search
there
it.
no love for straight furry porn?
Okay, so anyway, if you guys want to follow us, if you're not already, we are on Twitter and Instagram at TSPOLP, stands for The Secret Podcast of Laura Palmer.
Music is by Revenue LLC. You can follow us at Revenue the Band on Instagram,
Mhm.
Facebook, Twitter, other places.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can also, in case you were wondering, because we started off on Libsyn, we are on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and all that good stuff now, so you should be able to find us all over the place. If you like what you're hearing, leave us a review. If you don't, that's cool too. We have an email you can reach out to. It's tspolp@gmail.com. This podcast is produced by...
Amanda J.
Yes, and created by me, Paul Medley. And once again, special thanks to our guest, Black Velvet. We will be back next time with Blue Velvet.
With Blue Velvet!
Woo!
Yeah.
Which is my favorite David Lynch
It's
film.
a really fucking good one.
Yeah, we may have to make it a two-parter because I have a lot to say about that
I
one.
have a lot to say too.
So, thanks for listening,
Thank
guys.
you.